podcast?
This is a live podcast streaming on Top 10 Productions on YouTube. So, yep, it's live now. Created a channel last week and just figuring out how YouTube does live streaming and podcasting. They require you to wait 24 hours when you set up an account. So, I just picked a name. We didn't talk about it, but picked a name last week. I think it was pretty good. We did our practice. Jordan, I see ceiling tiles.
Yeah,
I'd like to see your face so we can see that haircut of yours.
I was in the middle of cleaning up my kitchen. I'm just finishing up a few things. I have my headphones in. I can hear everything. I'll be over there in 1 minute.
All right, man. And I see that Frank, the organic tank, is representing with is that a silver tie?
I kind of have a hedge fund, VC venture capitalist old days thing going. Maybe they don't do that. Maybe they're in t-shirts and jeans these days. I don't know.
Well, I've been reading, been catching up on some of my reading lately. Right before the holidays, you have magazines come in, newspapers, and you want to knock out the stories. And there's a couple storylines I've been following, and one does relate to Jiu Jitsu, because this podcast is generally about Jiu Jitsu, but it has to do with WeWork and that guy who was running that show. But have you read anything about something called Quadriga? So this guy set up a cryptocurrency exchange in Canada, went on his honeymoon in India, and he had suffered from Crohn's disease and died. And the thing about cryptocurrency, typically, they have a lot of security protocols in place, so that you're not just dependent upon one guy, because if you lose the keys to an account, you need to have backups and plan B and plan C. And there's a tremendous amount of there's a lot of questions that's come up now, because they're missing $140 million, I believe, maybe that's Canadian, in crypto. And his partner turns out to be, I believe, a convicted felon who trained Jiu Jitsu and went by a bunch of different names. And no one has seen this guy in a year. So it's an interesting story. Pick it up in the I think in
What's the name of the firm again?
Quadriga. It was in this month's Vanity Fair, which it's more of a gossip magazine, but sometimes they have good long form articles. I've just been following that story for some time, for over a year, because it just looks so questionable. The haircut.
Yeah, had to cut it off.
Heard around the world.
Doesn't he look a little bit like, what's his name, Rich? UFC.
Rich Franklin?
Rich Franklin. Yeah.
I don't know, because on my version of the broadcast, it just says Jordan left and Jordan joined, and it has those over his face, so I can't see Jordan's smiling mug like I want to right now.
Oh, no. All right. Well, let me see if I can...
I can see that he's also clean-shaven.
I know, this is... I think I'm the one with the most hair right now.
He really wanted that license, or whatever that was. No stone unturned for that license.
And it's just going to make me look more professional. Now Coach Casey's actually going to make me a coach and stuff like that, actually. Well, hopefully. He's always been getting on me.
Congratulations.
He's always like, you need to cut your hair, and I never really wanted to. It's been like one of the main things that we butted head on, actually.
Yeah, this is streaming live, so this is going to be up on YouTube, and so this is breaking news. I see. There's a bit of a I'm noticing a bit of a latency on your video stream, Jordan. Let me see if there's anything I can do from this end. Don't see anything.
I could try rejoining it like I did like that one time.
The platform I'm using is it's stage 10. And they have everything has levels as far as how much you pay. So this one's $22 a month, but it doesn't allow you to record for late and then post up later. So that they only at this level.
I see.
Yeah.
So we're just going live. We're just shooting it live.
Just going exactly.
In the old days, that's where Word Perfect came from. Word Perfect. In the old days of journalism, when you were writing on deadline, you had to be word perfect because you didn't have all the computer devices and spell check. So you had to get it perfect, and then it had to go out. Word perfect. So we got to be word perfect today, guys. We got to only an on switch, no editing, no nothing, just one take like a movie. Just one take and bam, and it stays in the movie.
Absolutely, yeah, I like it. If for another $70 a month, we get up to that level. But
why would we do that if we could be word perfect? Why would we do that? We have the opportunity right now to be word perfect. Let's just do it.
So what's your shirt? But you're always at the gym.
My shirt, it's a Nawaza shirt. It says, "But you're always in the gym," which is a bit of a picture. The girl crying on it on the phone.
That reminds me of some artwork. Man, I can never remember this artist's name. But anyways, move on. So what's been going on? A week later.
Even though I know that we are devoted to Jiu Jitsu, there were some big fights last night. That was a great card at UFC.
I was there.
I was there too. We both were there. We should capitalize because it's the house that Jiu Jitsu built along with Dana and along with the Fertittas and along with hundreds of fighters that spilled their blood. Jordan, you were there last night. I was there last night. There were some legends on that card, man.
Yeah,
UFC
it was
245.
a bunch of great fights.
Yeah.
What did you think of the stoppage on? What did you think of the stoppage on Colby, Frank?
Well, if it's true that his jaw is broken, then I just don't like his chances of. The ref lets it go 10, 15, 20 seconds longer. If you've got a broken jaw, there have been fighters that have continued to fight with a broken jaw. But, I just don't think you. How much time was there left?
It was like less than a minute.
Yeah.
He was in on a double. He was in like an Iranian type finish with his head in between his legs, and then he let go of the legs and covered his head, and then Usman hit him with not 4 hammer fists, and then the ref stopped it, but he was covering.
Well, you're talking to a guy that
he just did get rocked really bad, and he had his jaw broken.
I remember when I worked for the UFC, and I worked with Dana White for a little bit, and Chuck Liddell was famous for telling the referees right before the fight. The referees will come back and give them their instructions, talk to them, and he would say, "Listen, don't stop the fight unless I'm completely out. Do not stop the fight. If I'm not knocked out cold, do not stop the fight." Now, you know that the fighter doesn't have the authority to tell the ref when they can stop the fight and when they can't. But it's kind of like in football where the coaches are working the ref, right? You're just working that ref in basketball and whatever, and you're going to get some calls if you work them, right? You might not get the call that just happened, but you're going to work them. You're grooming the skids to get another big call. Hey, watch out for the hand check. This guy's holding my guy, right? You're making him aware. And Chuck Liddell probably did influence a lot of the referees. It does have some impact. The guy's a big name. He's telling you that. He's saying, look, I'm different than other guys. And I think that a guy like Colby normally the guys that have great chins are the guys that have the great cardio. Great cardio goes together with a great chin. There is a connection there that I've seen in my 33 years that especially in the recovery as well, right? If you have great cardio like Frank Yeager did in his prime, you can recover. You get hurt and then flash recover. Colby Covington is one of those guys that I think he can take a lick and keep on ticking. He has incredible cardio. The pace last night, guys, you guys saw the fight. The pace of that fight was sick. That was ridiculous. Just the volume. I would love to see the punch stats. I have never seen a fight, I think, where both guys threw that much volume. But to your point, I'm a guy who says, let them fight longer. I wouldn't have minded seeing it go longer, but I usually feel that way on a lot of fights. People might think it's a little bit mean, but I usually think, especially at the elite levels when a title's on the line, let it go longer. I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to condemn the referee either. I'm not going to condemn the referee either when there's all these concussions in the news now and you see all that and the Lou Rubo Institute and brain health and encephalitis, chronic encephalitis. The referees have that hanging over them now too, which is different.
Yeah, that's true, man. Referees do have to worry about literally changing people's lives. You know what I mean? I think about that all the time. It's super stressful to be a referee. You got to worry about making the crowd happy, making the fighter happy, and also keeping the fighter safe. It's a lot to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the one fight that I thought the Randami fight against Amanda Nunes was a very interesting fight because Amanda Nunes looked mortal standing up, right? For the first time, somebody could stand with her. And she didn't want to stand with Randami. She didn't want to stand with that Dutch chick at all, right? I mean, she was like, no, let's not play this game. But when she took Randami down, I expected a lot more damage. I think that Amanda is a black belt. Am I mistaken? Is somebody here, is she a brown belt? Maybe she's a brown belt.
I'll check and see.
Yeah, check that out. Sure. Because I just thought that she had a lot of opportunity. I thought she was coasting. I love Amanda, by the way. Amanda's a legend. She's a sweetheart.
That's kind of how I felt too. I was like, why is she not passing? Why is she not scoring more ground and pound?
Yeah. Wasn't that boring on the ground? I mean, that fight was pretty much all on the ground once she realized that Randami could hurt her. And
I was pretty disappointed with her jiu-jitsu, to be honest.
Yeah, dude, I thought Jordan, she could pass guard. She didn't even really want to pass guard. She went knee on belly a little bit. Yeah. She didn't want to pass the guard, which would have given her an opportunity to take the back. It seemed like she just really wanted to kind of
she was covering it, seemed like.
Conserve her rest.
Exactly.
Yeah. She wasn't super confident in her gas tank, kind of like Tyron Woodley was when he was champion. Whereas last night we saw completely different with. That's what's interesting about Usman and Covington. We didn't see any takedown attempts. That surprised me. No takedown attempts.
She's Amanda Nunes is a black belt under Edson Carvalho.
Yeah, I mean, I love Amanda. Amanda's incredible. She hits like a Mack truck. She fought a very smart fight. But Jordan and I think, agree that I just expected more from her jits. I mean, Randami's nothing special on the ground. I thought that rather than just hold Randami down, I thought that Nunes could have inflicted more. She could have been a lot busier with punches. And I thought she could have went for some subs. I mean, she went for the head and arm in round one, but then she didn't go for anything after that.
Yeah, I agree. I was waiting for her to pass almost the whole time, I felt like. I think she just got discouraged by her legs because she tried to pass a little bit, got up-kicked a couple times, almost got triangled one time. I think she was just scared of how long and strong her legs were and couldn't get around them. She just got discouraged and just wanted to take her down and hold her. Which was the smart problem because she won the fight.
The fight between Matt Brown and Ben Saunders last night had a triangle, and I had this weird feeling. I said it to my buddies who were there at the arena, and we were there at T-Mobile Arena, and I said before the fight, I said, man, they said, who's your pick? I said, Matt Brown is my pick. I've trained with Matt Brown before. I said, Matt Brown is my pick, but I had this strange feeling that Ben Saunders is going to catch him in a triangle. So in round one, bam, Ben Saunders gets him into kind of a lockdown, right, a variation of lockdown, which you saw, right? And then he gets him in the triangle, but he didn't execute the triangle properly. I think you know that, Jordan. Like, I mean, Ben's a black belt too, and he didn't execute right on the triangle to finish it, and then of course he held that triangle for like 3.5 minutes. I think it drained him too because he was squeezing and squeezing and squeezing, and then he didn't get it, and he was never the same after that. He was never the same after he lost that triangle.
Man, Killer B is my boy. He comes in and he trains with me, dude. He's one of the guys who's like one of the toughest roles I've had. He's super, super good, man. I didn't understand that either. Like, I can't judge the guy because I'm not on his level, but fuck, man. When he trains, like, he does his triangle correctly. It must have been like Matt Brown must have been too strong, just keeping his hips square or something. I don't know what was going on. He knows how to finish a proper triangle. I know that. There was a reason he couldn't finish it. I'm going to have to ask him what it was.
He kind of had he switched it. Remember, he switched to a conventional triangle, but at first he had a triangle that was kind of the opposite way, right? He had
a
tell me about that. Yeah.
So how do you have set up? I missed the whole. I didn't watch last night. I was off doing my other projects, so I'm sorry. But what was the alternate setup?
He set it up from rubber guard, and he still had his arm inside. So, like, he had, like, a reverse triangle with his arm still inside. That's pretty much essentially what he had. Well, that's what I remember, like, in my head.
Yeah. It was set up well. He broke the posture well. And he got the triangle, and I was like, wow, he was in a good spot. And he never, to me, pulled on the head. He never raised his hips really, and he never squeezed. Now, in his defense, he was closer against the cage, which makes it harder with the leverage. That didn't impact it some, that he didn't have the maneuverability over, when you get scrunched against the cage, you kind of run out of room, and you can't. But he never had the angle, right? When you get that triangle, it's better to switch the corner and take an angle, maybe, sort of accordion, squeeze in your legs, pull down on the head, raise up the hips.
Yeah.
Those are really the 4 points of pressure normally you'd want. And again, like you said, again, maybe give Matt Brown some credit that he was doing something that didn't show up. Because I'm like, man, I'm with you. I'm like, I think Ben is a lot better than that. What happened? What went wrong? By the way, this is very important. Whether we're talking about Jiu Jitsu, whether we're talking about MMA, whether we're talking about boxing. If there is one thing that is super important for young fighters out there, it is this. You might only get, at the high levels, one chance to win the fight. There might come, the higher you go up, the harder it is to come by a mistake. Opponents don't make as many mistakes. So you get two elites, there might only be one mistake in the match. And when that mistake happens, you got to take it. And so when he let Matt Brown off the hook there, and I give Matt credit too, but for whatever reason, I think if Ben is on his game and he does everything right, that fight should have been over, I feel like, right? He had him in a great spot for like 3 minutes. And that was the moment that got away. And that's the line between victory and defeat sometimes, that one thing. Can you capitalize on that one mistake, or do you let the guy off the hook? Mm-hmm. And when you let him off the hook, bam, it comes back and it bit him and he got stopped. And Ben wound up losing it in the second round. Looked a lot more tired. I think that triangle took something out of him. But the point being, when you're a young fighter listening, you might only get one moment, man. Don't let people off the hook. When you got a guy in danger, you might only get that one chance, especially at the higher levels. And you got to catch. Just like last night, Colby and Usman. I mean, that fight is up in the air. It's a coin toss fight. One moment, right? One moment. Yeah. Colby comes in and a hard counter right hand catches him, breaks his jaw, whatever it did. And that one moment really, it was like that was it. It just took one little mistake. It's like bam. And Usman did not let him off the hook, right? So it's really that. Ben could have won that fight last night. That's what's unfortunate, is that fight was a winnable fight for him.
I think so too.
What did you see?
I feel like he was almost winning.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Frank, when you said your intuition was that he was going to throw up a triangle. There's something that you saw, and is it because where's that hunch come from? Because it comes from somewhere. It's your experience, your fight experience. You've been, you've got quite a background. So, you saw something, and in these fights, whenever you're sitting down, you're like, okay, this is how this is going to go. There's something that formed your opinion, that he was going to try a triangle.
Well, number one, he is a 10th planet guy. He's got the build, right? He's got that length for a triangle. And I have trained with Matt Brown, and I know Matt Brown is interesting because in the gym, he is maybe the worst, really good UFC fighter that I've seen in the gym. I've never seen a guy. I've seen guys like Dominic Cruz and others lose rounds in the gym and be. But I've never seen, like, Matt Brown gets destroyed in practice. I mean, like, a lot of guys beat Matt Brown a lot, and a lot of the time. And then he makes the walk, and he is a different dude. And I think as much as anybody I've seen who can flip the switch. Now, again, he's not elite, but he is that level down, and he's dangerous. I mean, Matt Brown blows me away because he's not overly athletic. He's not particularly explosive, even though he throws nice elbows and all. Like, he's not like this guy who's going to wow you with power and explosion, whatever. He just is. It's almost like an assassin gear. He just has this assassin cold-blooded gear where he becomes a different dude on fight night than he is in training. In training, he's a pretty nice guy. He's respectful. He doesn't have that demon in his eye. When he makes the walk, he has demon in his eye. But let's get to the question of what you said, which is that intuition. When you've been training, fighting a long time. I've been at this for 33 years in the combat sports, either watching boxing or UFC or practicing wrestling and Jiu Jitsu and quite a bit of sparring and even a few street situations in there. So what happens is, you get all that experience, you get your own intuition, and you get really attuned to what to look for. So let me give you one example. When Rafael dos Anjos fought Eddie Alvarez a couple years ago here in Vegas, and I went to the fight. And I was sitting up in the nosebleeds for that fight. So I used to work for the UFC. Now I sit in the nosebleeds. I used to be behind the scenes, down with the fighters in the trenches, and now I'm in the nosebleeds. But when they had asked me during the week of that fight, who's going to win, I said Rafael dos Anjos. Rafael dos Anjos at the time was blowing through everybody, right? Eddie Alvarez was a really good fighter, but he had a lot of wars, and it looked like he was slowing down, and the miles were catching up to him. Looked like he was getting land. He can't take the same amount of damage. So I thought, I think Eddie Alvarez will give him a tough fight, but I'll pick Rafael dos Anjos. When the music came on, I'm up in the nosebleed, and they make the walk. Eddie Alvarez came out first. When Alvarez walked out to his song, I could feel the energy come off of him. And I turned to my buddy Daniel, who was there with me, and I said, Daniel, Eddie Alvarez is going to win this fight by a stoppage. He's going to stop him. The way he walked out, it was something in his confidence. And I was like, holy shit. Like, you don't know that before the fight, or you don't know that when you do all the mental analysis of, okay, all the variables, whatever, but you don't know what's that guy's mood going to be on that night, because we're not all robots, right? So there's different moods, and you're a human being. You go to some tournaments, you feel great. You go to another tournament, your warm-up sucks, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, or whatever, or we traveled and the bed sucked, or whatever. You have different food. When Alvarez came out that, I was like, wow, that's the walk. I've just seen it. That's the walk of a guy who it's his night. It wasn't flamboyance. It wasn't cocky. It was just like, wow. He walked in like he owned the joint, and it was convincing. And I was like, dude, he's just got the look. He's going to win by KO. And he did. He annihilated him. Last night there was a fight, Jeff Neal versus Mike Perry. Now, I had never seen Jeff Neal fight. I hadn't seen him. I knew he was supposed to be a heavy-handed guy. I'd never seen him. Jeff Neal out of Austin. Supposed to be heavy-handed. I'd never seen him. When they walked out, the thing that struck me is Mike Perry is super nervous, too antsy, too whatever. And Neal was so poised, and I just looked and I just said, based on demeanors here, there's a feel.
Right.
Like, the guy Neal's gonna win. Neal's gonna win the fight. Now, I'm not saying this always happens, Noah. I'm just saying that these things do happen where you don't always have these. If I did, then I would just bet on fights for a living and bet big money and never lose.
Of course.
It was that easy. It's not that easy. And some of it is on fight night. Again, most bets you have to make before the fight, days before the fight or whatever. Thailand is the only place with Muay Thai where they let you bet during the fight, right? People bet. A lot of the action in betting in Thailand is the first round, right?
Yeah.
Like they let them fight, and then people run and go place a bet based on the first round. But I feel like that with fighting. I feel like a lot of it is. I remember one other thing. When I was it was 2007 in April. I was down in Houston for a UFC. George St. Pierre fought Matt Serra. Of course, Matt Serra being a black belt under your boy Renzo Gracie in New York. And so Matt Serra was fighting GSP. And Dana White, I was working with Dana at the time, and Dana White went backstage to see both guys. And when I'm sitting up at the front, literally front row at the fights, and Dana comes from the back and says, "Yeah, I just met with St. Pierre, and I've never seen him more nervous. He's sweating. He's back there." He said, "I've never seen St. Pierre more nervous."
But GSP has a history of
Yeah.
like, I hate this shit. He's like, I hate this shit. I've seen that on.
Okay. Again, Dana has seen that. But Dana is saying, I've never seen him this nervous. I've never seen him more. He's normally whatever, but he is like in a place where it's like, wow, I've never seen him like this. Okay, he does have those issues. But he said, I've never seen him like this. He's sweating. He is crazy nervous back there. And that's all Dana said. Dana didn't even read into it as much. Because remember, Matt Serra was like a 8-1 underdog. Nobody thought Matt was going to win. And Dana went and met with Matt, and he's like, dude, Matt is confident as can be. He's telling me, look, I'm going to shock in the world tonight. I'm going to win this fight. And, just you put things like that together, and you're like, well, if I was backstage with GSP, you might feel it in the air. If you've been doing this long enough, it's like history. If things repeat themselves, if you know what to look for, sometimes there's just a feeling in the air where you're like, oh, damn, something crazy is about to happen here, right? It's a weird place. Like a fight is a magical place, because even like last night, George, we were there. The first 3 or 4 hours, nobody's in the arena. That place was dead.
It was empty.
That's how it always is in the beginning.
By 7:30, it was packed, and there was some pretty good energy in there. I mean, so it's like, and then when Usman stopped Kobe, that there was like magic for like 20, 30 seconds, and there was magic. And you can sometimes feel it before it even happens. Remember, like you can feel it before it happens sometimes.
I want to ask Jordan a question off of what you've said, because Jordan, you've actually gone in the octagon several times now as an amateur fighter for Tough Enough production or promotion. That feeling, that walkout is a product of multiple factors, and I think it's kind of. I find it interesting if you could talk for a moment about some of those things that you see and that you've experienced. As far as leading up to your walkout, and then how that impacts how that has impacted your performance in the ring.
So for my first fight, I was at the New Orleans. And I could see most of my friends, and it was a big crowd, but it wasn't like a giant crowd, you know what I mean? So I seen a lot of my friends, and they were in my tunnel and stuff like that, and the crowd wasn't super, super big, so I was able to walk out really, really confident, easily in my first amateur fight, right? But then I fought at the Green Valley Ranch, and the Green Valley Ranch is a much bigger crowd, and I noticed it right away. So I think depending on how many people are in the stadium and how big the stadium is really affects the fighter's mood and how the fighter performs. Whether it could be good or bad, but the fighter definitely notices it. I think even if it's a big stadium and there's less people in there, I think the fighter will be able to stay focused a little bit better, in my opinion.
Have you? Go ahead.
I was going to say, with the more people and with the more energy and the more people screaming and stuff like that, I feel like that really does kind of affect a fighter's mood. But that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the lag in the video. It's probably the broadband, I'm going to fix that. Because I'm doing this over Wi-Fi, but in the future I'll have this where it's plugged right in. I think that's part of that could be one factor here. I'm not sure. But have you seen what John Danaher, how he coaches his elite students? He talks about I think it's called the parable of the plank, and I'll put it in the episode links. But he talks about how it's just the same. It's essentially the same mat that you train at every day. It's just in a different location, and it'll have that same adversity. Do you find that some of your mental work And I guess, would you call this mental? Would you write this as mental toughness, Frank?
Well, let me say something that relates and ties into what Jordan's saying and what you're talking about. So when I
Yeah.
was in high school, I was a wrestler, and I was a pretty good wrestler. And I had this weird thing where I liked dark gyms. You know, like the old, they have in the best case they'd have like what was the movie Vision Quest, right? Vision Quest, where there's just a spotlight on the mat. It's dark in the whole arena, and there's a spotlight on the mat. I always liked a dark gym, and I felt more psychologically dialed in. I felt tied into some of the anger that I relied on, and some of the, even the negative emotions that I would draw on at the time. And whenever it was bright, I hated it. I was like, man, it's just too bright in here. And so little things like that, like stupid stuff. But it's stupid. But sometimes you can think about that. Sometimes you can think about your girlfriend's in the stands or whatever, or so and so's in the stands. You can definitely think about that. And then I would also say that we're all different psychologically. Where a guy like me competed his best, the better the competition was, the more elite, the people that were supposed to blow me out, the better my game rose. I didn't always win those matches. I'm not saying I did, but when I faced the world champions, I leveled up on a couple levels. People were surprised, and Drysdale used to say that to me, man, I don't know where you really step it up in live competition. The practice Frank would get steamrolled by some of these world champions. The guy that shows up is competitive, at least. Even, I gave it my best. They're just better. But I didn't get steamrolled. I didn't get run over. And so, and even in practice, there were guys, I'm not going to say names, but there were some elite jiu-jitsu guys who came and trained me, and, they didn't do some of the things that you might think. And so what I'm saying is our psychology is weird. We are humans. And then there's other times where I've lost to someone I shouldn't lose to, right? And you're like, that person is not, what happened today, right? I mean, what happened? But that's the sport. Unless you're Mikey Musumeci or the grapplers or the fighters that are on Mount Rushmore, or a few of them, Lucas Lepre, who's phenomenal. I mean, Lucas has had a couple of losses in the last minute. He's phenomenal, right? I mean, everything changes. Your body, Heraclitus said, you can't step in the same river twice. Your body, some days something's bothering you. Your neck, something's bothering you a little bit. Some days it's cold as hell in the gym, and you're in 80 cc in Finland. And it's like, wow, how about a 72-degree temperature while we warm up? Oh no, it's 60 in the gym, and you're like, damn, it's hard to get warmed up. I mean, all kinds of stuff. What did you eat? You're in a new city, and the food you normally eat, you're in a foreign country, and the food you normally eat, you're used to, you can't eat those now, and you're eating something else. And you flew over there, and the air is different. Even like when you come from East Coast to West Coast, you come from that humid air to that desert air in the dead of summer. We're not at a high altitude. We're at 2,000 feet. I tell you what, man, if you're going to feel it. And if you go from West Coast to East, and you just go to that humidity in the dead of summer, and you train a hot gym or that,
You go in that basement, Henzo's.
yeah.
Oh, petri
So things
dish.
change. Yeah, things can change that get in your head a little bit. And you start thinking about, some guys are ritualistic. Not everybody, but some guys are ritualistic, and something's not. They can't find their music, right? They have their music that they get warmed up to, and they can't find their music somewhere or something. But I'll tell you, one of the weird things too is it's interesting to go around IBJJF, and I would watch Roger Gracie and some of these guys warm up. And I mean, Roger Gracie's warm up is like the most nothingness workout. It is like it's literally just like this, and then it's like 2 minutes of just, and then it's a little jump, and it's nothing. It's like the least. Like, I don't know how that guy does it. I mean, even his warm up. I'm not talking about what he does behind the scenes or what he did when he fought Buchecha. I'm just saying what I've seen him on deck.
In the pin.
Worlds.
Yeah, yes. In the little cattle pin.
Guys are jumping up. That's like Mike Perry yesterday. Mike Perry's so nervous. And even Colby. His nerves were jacked up last night. You saw him before the fight. I mean, he's jumping. He's doing the whole jump up thing. It's like there's a lot of nerves there, right? So we're humans. You're not. So to Donna Hare's point, that's a great way to put it. But I think there's a lot to be said, and I'm sure Donna Hare does this. There's a lot to be said for get to the arena the day before or 2 days before and at least see the way it's laid up. Get used to visualizing, like, okay, you're going to be close to the crowd. Their coaches are going to – that's another thing that freaks people out, Noah. Like, if you're a younger grappler, in the old days, they would let the coaches almost basically be on the mat. I remember I was fighting in 2009, and Cobra Kai was a rival school here. Those guys are great, but they were a rival school, and I was here with Team Mika, and it was a rivalry, me versus Jerry Shapiro, who's very good in Vegas, two of the best guys in Vegas. And, there were 60 guys on the corner of the mat of the circle, right? Nowadays, you couldn't do that, but, you got Mark Lane, Chris Woolsworth's cornering them, and you got Mark Lehman, and you got these guys that are like, hey, ref, are these guys on the? Are they allowed to be on the mat, for God's sakes, right? So you even have to get used to some coaches or some fans can be so annoying. You got to get used to that too, where the coach is gonna yell the whole time, and you got to get used to this guy having a bionic voice, and you're like, and now you're thinking about it, right? You're thinking about shit you shouldn't think about.
That's amazing.
Real life. That's real life.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to say something to Jordan, to share with him. The three of us, we do a lot of jiu-jitsu together, on the mat when we're doing our trainings together. And we talk about things, and obviously this podcast is an outgrowth of our mat time together, and where we can take this and talk about things and share ideas. I want to share with Jordan, since you're still, you're signing up for these fights. Something I've read about performance anxiety, and when you're feeling that, and you want to put words to it of like, this is, I'm feeling anxious or I'm nervous. Change that to saying, this is exciting. What excitement I have. Because there's something to what the performance psychologists say about relabeling and making it work for you, and saying, this is excitement energy. This is exciting energy. And so then it starts to, you immediately shift the polarity of it from a negative to a positive and let it work for you.
Yes, like when I was saying that the energy affects the fighter, I was saying that exactly. It could be negative or positive. It could affect the fighter negatively with anxiety, or they could use it to amp up and use the energy for their own good.
Yeah, it's like you just said. You can always change the question. A lot of us, the way the human brain, the monkey mind works, we would say, hey, all the reasons it won't work, all the reasons I'll fail at this. And you could just flip that question on its head and say, okay, all the reasons that it will work. It's same with love or anything, right? Love is a scary place, but all the reasons that it will work. So you do have to play you have to play mind games. The other thing is, if you look, a lot of people are depressed, right, in our society. There's people, if people live in the future, they're anxious. If they live in the past, they're depressed, right? And the key with a lot of the tournaments is be fully present and don't obsess over the outcome. The hay's in the barn. All you can only control your breathing and being as relaxed as you can and fighting the way you're prepared. You can't really worry about the outcome at that point. You can't. It's just being present with being in the moment, being present, trusting your training, trust your coaching, and then the chips fall where they may. But where we start getting our own head is where we start worrying about the outcome. We have fear of losing. Once you have fear of losing, you've introduced losing in your brain, and that's a problem. So now you're coming from a fear place, not a faith place. So it really is a lot of most of us, people are either oriented to live in the present, to live in the future, or to live in the past. Most people live more in one of those boxes. And a lot of the problems for someone mentally in a fight come where they want to live futuristically. Oh, what if I lose? Oh, what I would, or in the rearview mirror, which is, I didn't have a good week of training, or I got submitted 20 times this week. How am I going to beat this world champion or whatever, right? Or they're just living in the past somewhere. You have to be completely in the present, and being completely in the present is really not worrying about the outcome. John Wooden, who coached 10 national title teams at UCLA, famously, never would use the word winning in any pregame speech during. He never talked about, well, we have to win, or this is what we can do to win. It was just very process oriented, very in the moment, very just like Donna here said. This is what we prepared to do. We did it on our mat. We're going to do it on this mat. We are prepared for this. We prepared for it in our mat. It's the same mat. It's the same. It's probably pretty much the same mat, same thickness, same whatever, right? Same mat.
Yeah, you definitely got to touch that mat. I understand that. Yeah, you really got to go out there and walk it, familiarize it. You gave me an epiphany just now, both of you. With what we're talking about here. I used to play trumpet in the band. Yeah, I was not in any sports teams whatsoever. And the way you would have tryouts, or you would have to play a piece, and so you would, there's 5 guys down the line, and each one would play it, and then the next one comes and they would play their piece, and you're sitting there, and I'm shaking, and I'm thinking about, I'm going to mess up, and you get on that treadmill of where you're like, you can't stop. You cannot stop that worry or that fear, that anxiety. And I was much younger. I was a teenager at the time. And, if I could tell myself then and something that I did practice was, is I didn't do it all the time, but I would just breathe. Just breathe. But now I would also say breathe and raise and open your toes with your feet, because you start clamping down. Just raise and open your toes, and then that kind of changes a little bit of your body, that tension, and just breathing. But I would say, even if you're not thinking about just fighting, throughout your whole day, if you're always worrying about the future, or if you're always looking in the past, that's also training for your mat time.
What's interesting is if you concentrate on your breath, you're not going to concentrate on the 10 breaths you took 10 seconds ago, right? You're going to focus on the breaths right now, right? So that you're going to focus on one thing at a time and what is happening now, which is if everything goes wrong, you go back to your breath, because at least you'll be in the present. There was some of the great poets used to say sort of the concept of lose yourself in motion or lose yourself in action. And that is what these fight sports are ideally. Lose yourself. But in order to lose yourself in action at a tournament, to be in the moment, there has to be a level of relaxation, just like we saw with Jeff Neal. We saw it with Usman, very relaxed fighter. We saw it with Anderson Silva in his prime. There's a level of relaxation. There's a level of trust. Trust is a more relaxed thing. It's not a super tense thing. Trust is a relaxed, it favors relaxation. So losing yourself, and a lot of times we lose ourselves in action in the gym, and then people get to the tournament and they forget to have fun. They forget to just be. They forget to just let it all hang out. They forget that. They tighten up, they tense, and they don't lose themselves. If I say lose yourself in action, hey man, go dance, go lose yourself in action. Go sing, go lose yourself. Go train Jiu Jitsu, go lose yourself in action. You're not going to be a nervous wreck. It's not compatible. So when you say lose yourself in action as an ideal, and that's really what I think the best ones do. They're so lost in the moment. And to do that, you have to not obsess over the outcome. You can obsess over the outcome 2 weeks ahead of time and be like, I'm going to win, whatever. But when you get there game day, you can't. You have to be in the moment. You don't go to practice. Who drives to practice and says, I can't lose today, I can't whatever, I can't, nothing can, nobody drives to practice obsessing over that usually. I mean, I drove home thinking about being tapped 20 times. But you don't drive to practice like, I need to go 20-0 in practice today. I need to go 20-0 or else I'm going to be depressed and bummed. I mean, if you lose at a tournament, you lose one match, you could be bummed for weeks. But nobody goes to training and they're like, God, I just lost today and I'm super bummed. I mean, Drysdale has been, but very few people do that. But we put too much stakes on that one day. You cannot worry about the outcome at that point. You can only worry about the moment. And if you worry about the moment, if you win the moment, you win the next moment, you win the next moment, you win the next moment, you keep winning the moment, you're going to win the match. That's how you win the match. You win the moment, you win the match.
Something I've been doing at Henzo's, like when we do our specific training, we start in like full guard, and I'll hold the guard. I mean, I'll until someone can break the guard out, but I'll keep the guard. But what I've been doing lately is playing with the vulnerability, because I feel very vulnerable in opening the guard and trying to play an open guard. To me, I feel like that's that vulnerability. And I know and I've said it before, I believe there's a huge match between I think it came from a book called Daring Greatly, where the more vulnerable you are, the more you get to practice courage, because you're believing and trust, like what you were saying. You're trusting in yourself to respond, not react. Maybe.
Yeah, if you get there a nervous wreck, then you don't trust your training. And you get there a literal nervous wreck, then you don't trust the training you put in. And maybe you need to go back in the future and trust the preparation, trust the training, right? But some people just don't trust the training. There's just something in their brain where they've had a lot of losses in life, maybe their personal life too, maybe growing up, and their brain is just wired to think of everything that can go wrong, everything that will go wrong.
And they're not good enough.
Yeah. Whereas some people, all the elites worry about what could go wrong. But the difference is when it comes time to make the walk, whatever, they're just single-minded, man. They're fear-based, they're faith-based, not fear-based. You got to be faith-based on the night, which is it's my day, it's my night. I trust my training. This mat is the same mat, right? It's the same mat.
Yes.
And give yourself credit too. Sometimes the time to think that your opponent is Godzilla is in your preparation, your training. Expect Godzilla to show up. When you get there, you have to be like, I'm the Godzilla Slayer. That's the trick.
Or you're the Godzilla.
Yeah, or you're Godzilla.
Yeah.
But in the lead up, sometimes it helps to be like, kind of like Rocky was with Apollo Creed. It helps to be like, dude, this guy is incredible, because that's going to make you do extra. That's going to make you dig deeper.
Hold on a second. What you're saying there is, I want to challenge you on that approach, which is the fear-based approach.
No, yeah, I said faith-based. Faith-based would be the ideal.
Yeah, well, that's on game day. That's on fight day. But unless I misunderstood you, but whenever you're, back in, where you're, Jordan, you have some time, you have some training time now.
He's got a lot of time. That kid's dangerous. Talk about it. You know that. I mean, I know we both know that. To the casual fan out there listening, Jordan will take your ankle home with him. I mean,
but what I'm saying, he's got time. He's not. You don't have a fight on the book. We just lost him.
Yeah. On that note.
Oh yeah, he'll pop.
We pumped him up too much. His head got too big for the headphones.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask him. There's a. I wanted to get into that. Where you use when to use the negative energy of the fear versus cultivating the positive, like that positive energy.
This is my own observation. This is anecdotal. This is not scientific. But in all my years' experience, I would say that the negative stuff has fueled more combat sports champions than the positive stuff. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily ideal, because we're entering a new age of motivation and philosophy. The world's gotten a little nicer. It likes kindness. It likes positive reinforcement versus the whole sort of the Vince Lombardi approach. So the world's changing now, right? You had a lot of coaches that were harder on the athletes in college sports. But, nowadays, you don't need to come. I think even somebody like Cale Sanderson, I think the fear of losing has been a wonderful motivation for a lot of athletes. I think Tom Brady, you watch him when they're losing. I mean, watch him on the sidelines. It's phenomenal. It's to watch Brady's reaction. I mean, he's seething, boy. He wants to win bad. And when they're losing, he's not a happy camper. I've seen that mostly in the champions. I saw that in Drysdale himself, too. I mean, I see that. I hated it. But that doesn't mean that you have to do that, right? We're entering a new, the world is different now. The world has gotten nicer. Now, if you're too hard of a coach, parents don't trust their kid with you, right? So I think we have to come from more of a faith.
Well, that's coming from something, though. That's coming from somewhere, though. That positivity movement, or bringing people up. That's coming from. There's some. There's something behind that that's specific.
Let me say this. So I'm here in Vegas, where you spend a lot of your year, and I've had friends say, look, there wouldn't be strip clubs if there were really good family setups for a lot of these girls, right? And if their dads were around, a lot of them, you probably wouldn't have hardly any strip clubs in Vegas. There'd be very few strip clubs in Vegas. I mean, that's true. I mean, people say that, and there's a lot of truth to that. And Monty Cox, who was one of the biggest, preeminent managers in MMA in the early years, right? He had Pat Miletich, Jeremy Horn, Matt Hughes, and a long line of others, Tim Sylvia. And I remember interviewing him for a magazine story. And he said to me, Frank, all the great fighters have a screw loose. They all have a screw loose. There has to be some kind of demon chasing you usually. There usually is. Almost always is. Even for the wrestling, whatever, something has to be a dangling carrot, and it's usually pain is the best mentor. It's the greatest teacher on earth. So somebody has to fear something. Me, I was a big wimp. For the first 13 years, I was a wimp. I got tired of being messed with, and that's the only reason I've spent all this time in wrestling and the fight sports is because I just was like, I don't like being violated. I don't like being disrespected. I don't like the feeling of walking into a room and guys can kick my butt or, shut me up or say whatever they wanted to say. And that really has fueled all my training. Paranoia. If I was a confident kid and happy and wasn't getting picked on, what do I have to go wrestle? And wrestling's hard.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu practices are hard. The only reason I'm doing this is I'm like, you know what? I mean, I'm not saying that it's like that now. I'm just saying what kept me going in the early years was the fear of I'm going to walk into a room and these guys are going to make trouble and I'm going to get beat up. That literally jump-started my training. And then it was being in training and thinking, if I don't get better, my training partners are going to beat me. I don't like how that feels. A lot of it was fear aversion or ego aversion. I didn't want my ego to feel like these guys just dominated me. They did whatever they want. I suck. I didn't want to feel that. So that motivates you because you're like, do you want to walk? Do you want to drive home and feel like you suck? I don't. So what am I going to do about that? Come back again tomorrow, train twice as hard.
All right, we got Jordan coming back. Looks like he just needed to. I'm going to put him back in. Jordan! No audio, though. Let me see. Make sure. Yeah, his mic is working. I just don't hear any audio. Oh, wait. Let me see. Maybe that's... There we go.
Hello?
There we go. You know what? In the Marine Corps, we had something called an IDT Tango form we had to fill out, otherwise known as idiot. That was an operator error. I had to know.
My phone died.
No, I figured.
My earpieces started to die, so I took my one earpiece out, left one in, and tried to plug my earpiece into charge.
Okay.
But apparently my phone wasn't above 10%, so it didn't notify me again. But it was charging the whole podcast, so I thought for sure it'd be over 10% by now. But apparently it wasn't over 10%.
Oh no,
it came back down and died.
Yeah, this is using some juice. Yeah, I thought. Well, did I say something? In those moments, did I say something?
You guys were all talking good about me.
Yeah, man. I thought we were like, guys said, yeah, you have some time off, and like maybe he's thinking, he's not signed yet for another promotion. That's not true. It's just a matter of. So where we were at whenever you left, we're talking about using, and Frank summed it up, excellent. I think about this in the Marine Corps. Show me someone, I hate to say it like this, but show me someone who's well adjusted who goes into combat arms. Every one of the men and women who go in the armed forces, and anyone who puts their foot on a Jiu Jitsu mat and stays there.
Why is our military mighty? Why do we have such a mighty, presumed to be the mightiest military? Why do we have it? What fuels that? Paranoia fuels that, buddy.
Paranoia.
That's not fueled by hunky-dory. Hey, let's just decide to have the mightiest military. That is, if we don't have the mightiest military, then we're going to be taken over by somebody else, and we'll be speaking in a... There's paranoia that drives that train.
Keep going with that thought. Go ahead and drive that for a minute.
Yeah,
drive that train. Yes.
And it's the same thing in the fighter psychology. There is almost always a screw loose. Think about it. You can spend your day however you want it. Why would you spend it doing the hardest work physically possible out there? There are many other ways. Why? Because you prefer that feeling it gets you that you can't. There's something that bothers you if you're doing something else. There's something that's like, this sucks, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this. It's preferable to put that work in. Why?
That's a great question.
What is so broken in us that we're like, that's a good idea? What are we fixing that makes that a
That's
good
right.
idea?
That's right.
Because you could. If you didn't have an ego, we're like, check your ego at the door. If you had no ego, you'd be like, well, I'm not a world champion. People don't like me. I don't care. Because you wouldn't worry about it. But you are worried about it to the point where you're like, I have to be number one. I have to be number one. If someone else is number one, I need to go cry under the bleachers. And, I just lost sponsors. But ego's not supposed to be important. But guys are crying under the bleachers. Guys are mad. Guys are yelling at refs. Why? Because we're thinking, I need to be the best because my life will change. I need to be the best so people like me. I need to be the best so blank. There's a screw loose there in a sense. A really well-adjusted person would not worry about that. A really well-adjusted person would be like, look, I don't care what you think. I'm good. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go work a regular job and have a beautiful woman and go travel, and I'm good.
Well, and then I got to ask, all these parents, for the kids programs. This is tough. Most kids, suburban kids, it's hard. How do you motivate children, to go do something whenever they're well-to-do?
Oh man, it's hard.
I'm
a kids coach.
Yeah, tell me.
I literally tell the kids, I'm like, look, guys, I'm trying to make you guys have fun here. If you guys don't want to be here and your parents are forced to be here, go home and tell your parents to pull you out. I don't want you to be here if you don't want to be here. I want you guys to have fun here, and you guys should be having fun here. We play, I even play a little game with them at the end for the last 5 minutes of class.
Mm-hmm.
We play a lot of Jiu Jitsu based type games, like the passing game, where one kid's laying down, one kid's standing up. They're trying to get around the legs. They think they're playing a game, but they're really doing Jiu Jitsu. I try and make them have fun with it. I even try and tell them, look, I'm not a normal teacher for you guys. I'm not a school teacher. I'm not here to get you guys in trouble. I'm not I just want you guys to get better. You know what I mean? I'm not a normal school teacher. And they're just like, oh, because I didn't like my school teachers when I was younger. So I try and get them to realize this isn't school. You guys aren't forced to do this. I want you guys to have fun. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess.
So that's
I get through to them, a lot of them. You know what I mean?
That's a huge dichotomy. From adult classes, adult jits, you're bringing in the broken warriors, the ones who have that initial speck of sand that becomes the pearl. But for children, I just don't know how to address that.
Let's put something on the table.
I mean, because I think of my daughter, and I'm like, how this kid has got everything she ever wants and doesn't want, mostly, she'll beg to differ with take me to Target, I'll show you what I don't have, but how that right there, what a challenge it is for you as a kids coach. Yeah. What a challenge.
So my kids are usually pretty good.
Yeah, but still, that's a challenge. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Frank, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that very few people step on the mat early on, the first couple months, and oh, I love this. It's the greatest thing ever. I don't buy that. I think that most people are first of all, you're losing all the time. You're sore. Your body's sore as hell. You're not used to it. If the kid enjoys it, they enjoy it because there's other kids in there, and they get to play around, they get to move. Yeah. They're not enjoying the chess game of it. So they might enjoy that the instructor is really nice to them and is funny or has pays attention to them. But jiu-jitsu doesn't start getting fun, in my opinion, until you start winning. I'll be honest. If you're not winning more than you're losing, even in practice, I don't think it's that much fun. I sit here and tell you how fun jiu-jitsu is, but I'm telling you that because I've won the vast majority of matches in training. I have. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm not saying I'm going to. Maybe I need to be in different rooms, but I'm just saying.
Why don't you come up with me with the weight difference?
It's not that much fun if you're always the nail and you're always losing. I think what I think is fun? Winning. I think winning is funny. I think dominating is funny. I do think learning is fun, but I think a lot of the kids, they fall in love because it's like a place where over time when you get good and you start winning and the parents start giving you oh, good job, and the coach is good job, and the other kids are good job, and you realize that, hey, I get special treatment now. I get special acknowledgement. My parents are happy when I do whatever.
That works for some kids, though, and for some people. because some people need that external validation. But there's some people who seek intrinsic validation for what, doing the activity for what it's worth. And I've been reading. I've been a blue belt. Sapo gave me a blue belt October 2015, and but I've worked and taken time off from the mat. Some of that due to just being lazy. Some of that is just working. And I'm thinking of, I don't mean to inject myself in this, but I'm thinking of I've been doing some reading about what is the blue belt versus the purple belt, and then I'm thinking of Jordan since he just got promoted to brown belt. And something I came across was where you start to fall in love with just improvement, the improving aspect of it. Where your awareness, things start to click mentally with, like, you see things, you understand. And
but you usually got to be waiting for that improvement to click in. There are days there are weeks where you go to training and you're getting beat and things aren't going your way and you're like, I don't feel like I'm learning. I feel like I'm regressing. I feel like I got worse. When in reality, it's just your training partners are getting better, right? A lot of times they're getting better. Sometimes we hit ruts, emotional ruts. But there's tons of times where you feel like, I don't feel like I'm getting better, but you keep going.
Yeah, I keep tapping the white belts every week.
There's been tons of times where I felt like I wasn't getting better, but I kept going. Because I figured I'll figure it out eventually, and I'll be winning more, and I will be learning more. There's tons of periods where you feel like, I don't feel like I'm learning and getting better right now. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying I think a lot of people feel like I suck. I think a lot of people drive home and feel like I'm still not that good. But you still keep going.
Yeah, well, that's the key. That's the key. It's so hard to. It's so hard. It is very hard that whenever you are in that place where you're not doing well, and you lose faith, you lose trust in the process.
To get the motivation to go, yeah.
You lose trust in that process, and much of this discussion should be around. Literally what you just said earlier is you need to trust the process. Just go. I asked Henzo, should I train like really intensely or just go in and just roll? And he's like, no, you're not, well, he didn't say you're not, but effectively the way I took the message was just go be consistent. Just go. You don't have to train so hard where you're not going to be able to train for 3 days. Go train, and if you want to train light for 3 days in a row, you're there on the mat, and you're on the mat 3 days versus someone who trains 1 day
and they're gone. This is a new phenomenon, Noah. This is not the history of this sport has been kill or be killed in training. It is starting to shift now, and that is becoming acceptable. In the old days, you do that, your teammates will be like, I don't like rolling with him. He's wimpy. He's soft.
Yeah.
That's how it would be. For most of the sports history, that's how it would be. Now you can get that because an enlightened guy like Henzo says that to enough people, and we're having a wider discussion. But for most of the history of this sport, it wasn't. It was, you're coming to practice, you better be ready to rock and roll. Nobody's taking it easy on you. You're lazy if you're taking it easy. That's been the history of the sport. It is changing in the last couple of years, and that's a good thing. And by the way, when I talk here, I'm talking about what I've seen and what I think is the case the vast majority of the time. I'm not talking about what's the ideal. The ideal would be different. I'm talking about trends that I see, what I think is going on in a lot of people's minds. I'm not saying what's ideal. What's ideal would change depending on each athlete, but I'm not talking ideals here because ideals apply to maybe 1%. 2% of the athletes. I'm talking about the 98%, the 97%.
Every time I was rolling the other night with a black belt, and I was just thinking about how in our academy, what role do I play? Because there's like so many students, but I think that I show up in what role do I play within the grand scheme of things? And I get this sense of, well, I come, and if I'm there, I might make someone else better. And they're training with another partner who actually trains, and there's a little linkage there between me and through my training partners to the top guys in the academy. There's a linkage there. So if I don't come, and if I don't show up, then the training partner linkage all the way up to the top guys, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, to the students that feed into the stable of athletes that John Danaher works with. I'm not there at the base there, maintaining the base, the everyman. I'm not, the everyman like me, the every Joe Schmo showing up. If I don't do my part, collectively, the best aren't there to be supported. Does that make sense? Because it's like a tribal, if one person isn't like sweet, if a guy does, if a guy isn't doing the basics there, how are the top guys going to be able to do things if we don't have that so many people around? I don't know if that makes. Maybe I'm not.
Take some time and talk because I've talked a lot.
Yeah.
I definitely get what you're saying. Because if you don't go, then how is the other blue belt guys your size going to get a role with another blue belt on your level?
Yes.
And there's different body types, and different body types are extremely important as well. You know what I mean? I think especially for your body type, especially because there's not a lot of bigger guys, or like even like just big strong guys, there needs to be a good enforcer blue belt, especially for like I was saying, you need to be able to roll with the blue belt guys. You keep the white belts in line. You keep good blue rolls for the other blue belts, and then the purple belts can work. Purple belts and higher belts can work their techniques on you. You know what I mean? You do play like a vital role in the improvements of everybody's game. And if you don't come, then the other guys your size aren't going to get that role with you. And exactly like you said, then they're going to be lacking in their improvement.
There you go. You nailed it right there. Yeah, I didn't know how to say it. To articulate it, on the mats. But that's what the black belt said to me, because I needed you here because I needed to work some stuff with your size.
Exactly.
And then I get these flyweight guys that it's not right what I did. I don't know. You'll tell me. A flyweight purple belt. For the life of me, I could. He's a small guy, but I respect him. And there's a backstory here. I'm working with him, and I can't get top, because I want to get top, and then I'm going to thread by thread work my way up to his neck. So we keep moving around, and I move him up against the wall. Usually in training, whenever you're rolling with someone, you'll the wall. Okay, we'll move around. I actually this time, like, it's a padded wall. I can finally corner him and take him down and get on top. Yeah, I know it's wrong. It's wrong. It's a little,
against the wall, took him down.
Yeah, and I kind of stopped there, kind of kick forward my mouth guard and go, I'm using the wall this time. I'm like, in the roll, I'm like, I can't beat you.
It happens all the time.
I can't beat you. I can't beat you fair. I'm just going to use the wall to pin you, and then I'm going to drag you down.
It happens all the time. Uh-huh.
And I just told him at the conclusion of, like, you're a badass. You're just a badass. Because he's like, he comes up to my nipples. He's small. And we was training as white belts, now he's a purple belt, and his techniques sound like there's no neck there. I finally get the mount, and I'm going for the Ezekiel. You cannot Ezekiel a head, because that's all he's got left. It's just gone.
He has no neck.
It just sucks in the neck. It's gone.
Yeah, there's this guy at my gym named Cruz, and I cannot choke Cruz. He doesn't have a neck.
Yeah,
they choke him, and it's just like you can't get underneath the guy's chin, and his neck is shaped so weird that even if you choke him without the underneath the chin, it just doesn't really work right. It's like,
I can't Ezekiel this. I can't Ezekiel this face, and you don't want to just.
But Jordan, Noah, let's go back for a second because you were talking about this earlier, and I think this is a more important issue than this. Let's peel back the layers, using you as an example, on why someone actually trains jiu-jitsu versus the fluffy, idealistic, whatever. What would you be losing if you decided tomorrow never to train jiu-jitsu again? What would you lose?
What would I lose?
We're gonna. No,
I could say a lot what I would gain.
Wait. No. Follow me here. There's going to be a bunch of questions. We're going to peel back the layer. We're not going one question, two. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going with the line of questioning. The first question is, what would you lose if you stopped training today? We'll get to the other ways we can frame that question later. What would you lose?
Whew. And this will be the biggest thing. And it's...
and I already know that what I think is one of the things you're going to say. So go ahead. I'm going to tell you as soon as you say it.
Okay. And it's really fact-checking reality. It's you know, I weigh 240. I'm 5'10", 5'11". If I'm slouching or not. I lift weights, but I'm not particularly really strong. But it's good to know it's hard to hold someone down. It's hard. And certain people, their personality, they're not using their body, and you feel that with them. And it's like, yeah, I can do this.
Are you saying that safety is one of the things you would lose a sense of safety or security? Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure your words. What is that thing? If you had to put it in one word, two words.
My fact check to reality.
Is it safety? Is it what is it?
I'm calling it the fact check to reality, which is calling out my own bullshit. I look at Jordan. Jordan, you're wiry. I think, I would grab a hold of you and I could just put you down and hold you down.
Wait. Let's peel the
layers.
That's
not the truth.
Let's peel the layers back on that. Are you saying you have a problem with somebody else being able to kick your ass then? Is that part of it? You have a problem with somebody? This little guy can kick my ass.
Do I have a problem with it? Well, I respect it now.
Okay, I understand that. But for you training, why do you train? Are you training to get in shape? Are you training because you don't like the idea of guys being able to kick your ass? You don't like the idea if something breaks out?
Okay, it's more so... Well, yeah. To answer... Yeah, I want to be ready. I want to be ready.
How important is that? On a 1 to 10, 10 being extremely important.
Extremely important is when shit goes down, I want to at least have a repertoire of things to do.
So it's extremely important to you to be able to be prepared if something happens.
Absolutely.
That's really important.
Top.
That's part of what's driving you to the gym.
Top. That's one of the top things. I want to be ready. It's why I took
physical fitness. Is physical fitness a big driver for you to be in jiu-jitsu?
Vanity-wise, no.
No, I mean just being physically fit though, living longer, feeling capable.
Well, we're talking about living longer. I'm concerned about my joints, and I'm already getting mangled along the way.
Okay,
so I don't even know if I'm going to be able to move when I'm 70.
My biggest reason for being in shape is if the shit goes down, I need to be ready. It's not vanity either. I don't care about six-pack. I care about if something happens, I need to be able to handle that situation. I need to be fast. Is that your primary driver for fitness? That's what primarily drives my fitness. It's hey, if I need to do X, Y, Z, my body will work.
It'll work good enough. I wouldn't say it would work very well. I do need to work on that.
Is that a primary driver?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I think so. That's a really interesting question. I haven't thought. Why do I really train?
How much of a role does the camaraderie of the gym environment play in you training and you staying the course?
If I had, can I put that as co-equal? Because I do enjoy friendships. I do enjoy getting to know people. I've been called a people collector before, but I like to meet people and get to know people.
So is that a big driver?
Absolutely.
That is.
Absolutely.
So you lose that. If you stop training, you lose that.
I know more about a guy, rolling with him in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, or thank you, Daniel, 7 minutes, 7-minute rounds, Yeah, I feel like I know them better, or they know me better too.
Would you be as confident without jiu-jitsu? Do you think it impacts your confidence? Would you be as confident you training no jiu-jitsu?
It's just no comparison. It's no comparison. Yeah, I love the feeling that jits gives me.
Would you be more prone to depression if you didn't train jiu-jitsu?
Almost likely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You do. You have. I think about when you're older. You know, you have that. It's a social activity that's also very aerobic. It's very physical. It's a full body workout, of course, but it's also a social activity where you see situations and you get to know people, and like you exercise even your spirit and your integrity. I talk about putting my training partner up against the wall just to, use the wall as a tool to bring him down. But in all fairness,
I saw Vitor Belfort and another guy at Drysdale's go through the wall. They literally put a hole in his wall.
Well, those are pro athletes.
And went through the wall. There's a hole in the fucking wall. Crazy.
But what I was saying is, I was using everything I didn't even know. Like the other day, a black belt used my belt. He stuck my hand in my belt and held me down. Held my arm. I'm over there with my other hand trying to untie my belt to get my arm free. And I thought, well, that's not
fair.
Remember
yesterday to Ben Saunders? That was crazy. Remember that? When his arm got stuck behind him in the triangle? I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Remember that? How weird was that? Explain that to Noah what happened.
So Matt was in a triangle, and he pinned his wrist down and then reached behind his back and then pinned his wrist behind his own back. It was almost so like Kimura him, or almost like hammer-locking him behind his back. It was pretty crazy.
Everyone's doing that.
The triangle. So Ben Saunders had the triangle, but his own arm was trapped, so he couldn't get his arm out. So he had the triangle. He had his legs cinched for the triangle, but he didn't have his arm. I don't know. I've never seen that happen.
Okay, I'll have to go and see this. So he's applying the triangle to his opponent, but his own arm is pinned behind him.
Yeah. Yes. Stupid.
How's his arm pinned behind him? By his own weight? Because his positioning against the...
His arm is pinned by his own weight. It's dragged across his back.
That's horrible.
You got to see it.
That's horrible.
It was weird. Admit it, George. You were watching that.
That's horrible.
And I was thinking, how the hell is he going to get his arm back? Because he got the gloves. He was lucky. It took him 45 seconds or a minute to get his arm back. His arm was trapped for a minute. And so I was thinking, there were 3 minutes left on the clock, and I was like, what's the ref going to do if neither guy moves? He's got him in a triangle. He's got his arm trapped. Are we going to sit here and watch 3 minutes of a guy trying to get his arm back? Because there was nothing either guy could do. So it was totally weird.
Doing jits does, look, I'm talking to two people here today, and it's pushed me into, learning the technology, reaching out, taking a chance, doing something I would not necessarily want to do, to put myself out online, be vulnerable like that.
Let me say one other thing really quick. The one thing, and you alluded to this earlier, one of the things that I love, I was a philosophy major in college. I love that jiu-jitsu and the combat sports and wrestling cut through the BS. Guys are real. Girls are real. We're not sitting there putting on pretense, right? Like you said, people let their guards down, and you can know who somebody is very quickly. The CEO doesn't look down on people. The Republicans and Democrats get along. The Jews and Gentiles, everybody gets along. It's you cut through all the BS in that environment, right? It's just, like you said, you feel somebody's energy, and you're going to take their best fight. They're going to take yours. You're going to tell them how to get better. Maybe they're going to tell you. And that's a rare thing. Where are you going to find that versus the political correctness of work and all the formalities and all the BS? And so many places in the world now are just fake and politically correct. And it's dude, that Matt doesn't lie. And
it's a meritocracy.
You can't get away with it. Yeah, you can't get away with it. So I think that's a beautiful thing too, where you can know who somebody is very quickly, versus a lot of other arenas where it take you years to get to know somebody. But now here we are, like you said, we all feel close. Why? I mean, I feel like I know Jordan, I know you. We trust each other. It's not just because we've known each other. It's because we're part of a culture where you just don't BS. You don't pretend. You know, I know that Jordan's a good guy because I've seen him. I've trained with him. If he was dirty, he would be dirty when he trains with me. I believe that. If he was a dirty guy, he would be doing dirty shit all the time.
Well, I want to ask. Okay. And this is what I wanted to bring this podcast to about. So I wanted to pursue an angle here in our podcast with, I call it the ethics. Ethical decision making on the mat and off the mat. And, we've been talking a little bit about some vignettes. And I've got one immediate one that I want to throw out there. And Jordan, I'm going to need your help because I'm going to pose it. I roll with someone who has unfortunate physical disability. But I'm going to have to laugh about this for a second because the way they were using their physical disability was unfair in that the way it was being used, it was unfair. So I'm in an ethical dilemma. I'm in a dilemma situation here because I don't want to.
I would say it's unfair or just not very nice. I would say it was not very nice.
Okay.
But
yeah. It's one of these weird situations. It's a weird situation. And Frank, I wanted to talk to you about this. And there's many of these things out there. Okay, there's many of them. There's many ethical situations that we can talk. We can talk about. Do you want to roll with someone who has a smelly gi? That's easy. No, I don't want to roll with smelly people.
Yeah.
Or do you? But this. Let's just stay on this one for a second. So I'm in a situation. I'm in a role, and this person seems like a nice person. But then, like I said, slap, bump, go, and next thing you know, they're doing something to me. BJ Penn would talk about during the roll, he would go and he would cover the mouth of someone. And I've, just for fun, just for play, goofing off, as a goof, when we're rolling with them and I can't get something, I will just go, and I want to do this to my close friends, not to someone I've not rolled with many times, someone I've rolled with like dozens of times. I would just go, I cover their nose and their mouth, and they just start tapping because they can't breathe. This is a situation. Can you help me out, Jordan, with this?
Okay.
Jordan, you've observed this situation.
My mom had called me and hung up the phone. When I left, you were talking about covering people's mouths, their nose and their mouth with your own hand.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about that particular scenario.
With that guy?
Yeah, I didn't want to give away any details, but
Yeah.
It's just a situation.
He has, he doesn't have a hand. He pretty much just has, a forearm, essentially. And he was doing almost like a punch choke, Ezekiel choke, but using the direct spear of his forearm.
So that's just like taking. I turn this over to you, Frank, to analyze.
Only because Jordan doesn't have Jordan have audio. Jordan, say something. Okay.
Hello?
You got to understand. He's got to use what he's got. He's got some disadvantage, so he's got to use what he's got. That's might be all he's got. He doesn't have that second hand, so I would be okay with it, just knowing that hey, I mean, that's what he's got, right?
So maybe I could say it like this. Maybe that's more of you're tapping to pain compliance. We've had this, you see in white belt class, they jab the elbows into your thighs.
Jordan, I mean, no. It's the proverbial, whenever students would ask me, they would have some move. How do I get out of this? How do I get out of a triangle? And to me, the number one thing is don't get in the damn triangle. That's 90% of getting out of the triangle is don't get in the triangle. Yes, we can show you all kinds of cool stuff, and Bill Cooper defenses, and this guy, and Eddie Bravo's got some fantastic defenses. But the best thing I would say is, hey, how do I get out of this gnarly choke, whatever? Don't get in it. And so the same to you. Tough love. I love you, and I think highly of you. Don't let he's going to use that nub. Don't let him do it. It's your fault.
Harpoon my neck.
Yes. Don't let him get there. If you do, it's coming. Shame on you.
Jordan, do you have any contrasting views?
I do agree that it probably is a little gray area, a little rude.
It's a little wrong.
Yeah, it is a little sharp. I have rolled with the guy.
It's a little sharp too, yes.
Yes, he's trying to do these things to me, but I just, like Frank was saying, I just don't let him do it. You try and do that to me, I'm not going to let you do it. I just grab it, push it off. It is easy to get off.
Yeah. No, I
cinch down tight into your throat.
You've definitely paid attention. Well,
Frank, you used to have in the old days when you used to do closed guard, they taught you to put your elbow in the. You know that one, Jordan, right? You put the elbows in your quads, and they dig their bony elbows.
Yeah,
that defense is widely taught. I mean, it sucks right now if you do that. It's like, well, that's nasty, that's dirty. Remember, once upon a time, heel hooks were dirty. Once upon a time, and knee bars were dirty, and heel hooks are still frowned upon in the gi, right? So. It is a relative thing where it's like, oh, I mean, I remember when takedowns were a bad thing to do in a jiu-jitsu class. Oh my God, you're going to hurt someone because you're going to take them down on top. That was frowned upon. So these things do change. You were a bad guy if you went too hard in the class. Like if you were a wrestler and you went balls to the wall, you were a bad. The way that Homolu trains on his videos or Andre and they getting after each other, right? What do they call it? Pujada, everyday Pujada, dude. You were like a jerk. You were like there was a target on your back if you went and you were training like that. All out. I mean, guys were going hard, but if you wanted to make it like it was like boom, all over the mat, it's like, wait, what's wrong with this guy? It changes. It can change depending on the environment, depending on the goals. I still think a lot of this is trickle down. You're lucky because you have Donaher and you have Henzo, and they set the tone. So if you have places where if you have an instructor that wants to hurt people, and I know a few elite instructors where they do things really hard, they normally don't have a lot of training partners. I know here in Vegas we had two phenomenal grapplers. I'm not going to say their name, going back years. Nobody wanted to train with them. Very few people would train with them because they didn't care if they hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you want to be in a gym, whether you're elite or not, you want to be in a gym where people are. I think one of the top 3 rules for training anywhere is respect for each other, like respect for each other's body. In other words, one of my top 3 goals is for me not to get hurt today training, and one of my top 3 goals is not to hurt you. My number 1 goal is to get better at X, Y, and Z. That's my number 1 goal for training that day. Get better at X, Y, and Z, whatever that goal is. My number 2 goal is, Frank, don't get your ass hurt today. So tap if you got to tap, whatever. Warm up right, whatever. My number 3 goal is don't hurt Noah, don't hurt Jordan.
Frank's rules.
That's my code. So I'm looking out for you. You might not even know it. I'm rolling with you, or your instructor is rolling with you, and they're looking out for you. People might not know it. They might be getting tapped and dominated, but they don't realize there's a reason that when you roll with the black belts, you rarely get hurt. The people that are least likely to hurt you are the black belts, and part of that is, they have control, but the other part is they tend to be like, I'm not going to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you.
So it sounds like you put your technique ahead of your getting hurt, and then you put your partners. I would assume that those are almost co-equal, is what you're really saying. Yeah. That they're co-equal.
Me not getting hurt is more important, but they're right behind me.
Marginally. Yeah. But you
by a little.
You feel the shame, though, and there is some shame in hurting your partner. There's a lot of shame there.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, man, and I feel bad every time. None of
Yeah.
them are really major injuries, but they're usually like minor injuries. But even still, with the minor injuries, I feel bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
man,
Well, a lot of times, the more you hurt your partners, the more likely you are to get hurt because guys are gonna catch on and they're gonna try to hurt you. So it's bad on a lot of levels. It can get you hurt more too because now guys are like, oh, it's my turn to crank,
Yes.
and they might crank something that they wouldn't because if they think I'm the kind of guy that cranks, when they get their chance, they're gonna crank, and so it's bad for it. It's karma. There's a karma to it.
There's an approach I'm taking, and I want to surface this. A lot of things. One of the reasons us having this podcast is I get the opportunity to ask questions to you two, and now we can throw it out to the universe and find out. So what I do is, anytime I roll with someone I've never rolled before, I let them. All I do is like I go into pure defense mode, and I'm not trying to make. I'm not trying to tap. I'm not trying to tap them. But for the first, I would say 60%, 75% of the roll, I'm going to tap to whatever they're doing. In fact, I'll go it down to where I dial it down to like very minimal resistance because I want to see where they are. And then, we get someone, like the other day I had someone, roll, he gets to a submission position with an armbar and he just cranks 90%. And I'm like, I had control over things to where I can avoid injury. But then I looked at him after he did that, and he goes, "Oh, I guess I didn't really need to just like pull real hard." I'm like, "Well, think of like when you're docking a spacecraft. You don't just go like slow in, and then the last 5%, bam, you know. You do the opposite. You get there quick, and then that last 5%, you just slowly get in there. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's my approach. Is like when I'm rolling with someone that I don't know, and I don't know how aggressive they're going to be, or if they like, I call this like it's like a spazzy thing where they see the submission, and then it's like all hell breaks loose, and they're going to go for it. So that's my approach with people when I roll with them. It's like I'm just going to chill, and I'm going to see what you do, and then if you're an asshole, I'm going to use more neon belly, and I'm going to jab your neck, or but I won't do it so much. But I'm definitely there to give a little bit more, and maybe that's not ethical either. Jordan, you
I
have
would say
something to
no.
say? No,
No.
no.
Anytime I roll with somebody that I don't know, I am trying to not let them do anything to me. Like
Mm.
I'm not gonna let this guy do nothing because especially in my circumstance where they a lot of the time I roll with a lot of strangers at the 10th Planet Las Vegas Open mat. A lot of guys come in there and they're trying to break us off a lot of the time, especially over here at 10th Planet. They're coming in there to go back to their gym and be like, "Oh, I went into 10th Planet Las Vegas and fucked these guys up." So
Oh.
I have to, and especially since I'm one of the higher belts, I have to be a mat enforcer to make sure that that doesn't happen, or at least that happens as least as possible. It happens every once in a while. I won't lie. Every once in a while, some guys still do come in. They beat me, but you got to be a really good guy to do that. You know what I mean? So for the most part, I'm not trying.
Jordan, you raise a great point, which is guys going cool, going easy with each other, or trusting each other depends. Um, do you if you and I train all the time, I might open my game and not be upset if Jordan catches me in something. But a guy coming in from the outside who I think is going to tap me and then leave and brag, no, I'm going to close my game up. Like you just said, I want to dominate. I don't want the guy to go and brag and say, oh, he wasn't anything. But if I trust Jordan, Jordan's my regular training partner, I'll open my game up, and if he catches me and stuff, it's just a learning experience.
If I don't know you, I don't, especially in the nogi, I don't know what belt you are until we start engaging. You know what I mean? So if I don't know you and I can tell that you don't know what you're doing, then I'll loosen up my gas tank a little bit. You know what I mean? But if I'm rolling with you and I can tell you're a high level game opponent, I'm not going to give you an inch because you're going to take my inch and you're going to almost break my arm with it. I don't know who you are, buddy. You're trying to kill me. This is a game of death. I'm not going to let you kill me. Like I don't like. I can't avoid. I didn't. I just got on insurance. You know what I mean? I can't afford to go to the hospital and stuff like that. I can't afford to take off injury. My only job is a jiu-jitsu coach. I can't. I'm not gonna give some guy my arm or my leg. Like I'm not giving him anything. Why give the guy the opportunity to break me and hope that he's a good guy? I'm like, oh, this guy's a good guy. He's not gonna break me off. I don't know this guy. This guy's trying to kill me. I'm not gonna give him the opportunity to break me off.
Interesting.
I do want to say though that both can work for you. So I'll tell you two different scenarios. One, I went to a tournament in California in 2001, and Nam Fan. There were 16 guys in that tournament. One of them was Nam Fan, who wound up fighting for the UFC, black belt. And Nam Fan was a knee bar monster back then. Okay, 2001. Like, we hadn't seen the knee bar stuff he was doing. It was like from another planet. And they threw all the blue belts and white belts in one tournament. It was called King of the Hill tournament. It was in California, Torrance, I think. And they threw all the blue belts and white belts like under 165 under. So I was in this thing. I get to the semifinals against Nam Fan. And I knew Nam Fan had the knee bar, but I was like, I was a better wrestler. So I picked Nam Fan up, I slammed him. I double-legged him, and I slammed him. As soon as we hit the ground, he latched on, he spun to a really hard arm bar, and he armbarred the crowd. I mean, you could hear my arm popping. The referee could hear my arm popping. And I was a stubborn, hard-headed, and I was like, I'm not tapping. I didn't feel any pain, by the way. I didn't feel any pain, but the ref could hear my arm popping, and my arm was straight, and Nam Fan was cranking. So the referee stops the match. And I went up, and then when my adrenaline came down, I realized, oh man, he did pop my arm. He jacked my arm pretty good, right? So I went and iced my arm. I still had, it was double elimination. I had 2 more matches. I still did those extra 2 matches. But anyway, Nam Fan popped my arm. I drove back to California. My arm was like swollen for 2 months. My elbow was so swollen. And it limited my training substantially. But I've been very hard to armbar ever since. So the fact that Nam Fan cranked my arm and popped my arm actually helped me because it made me so hyper aware of the arm bars and the situations and what guy has to do to set it up. So it can work for you. On the other hand, I love training with women, for instance, because you don't normally have as much of the cranking. You don't have to worry about that. And then you can just sort of always open your game up and just play technique. And so I always liked, I'm not a big guy. I'm 140, 145. So I always loved training with women because they're more technical and you don't have to worry as much about that risk of injury. So you can, you give them your neck. You can be Houdini a little bit, But I'm with Jordan. I don't trust everybody to be cranking on my limb. If I don't trust the guy, I'm not going to play an open game. I'm just going to try to blitz him or defend if I have to. But I'm not going to sit there and you say, oh, put your ego aside. But no, I'm not going to trust him with my limb, and I'm not going to tap that I can trust quick enough. Because some guys, we had a guy at Drysdale's. This kid was a blue belt. Best arm bars that I've ever seen in Drysdale's was a blue belt, right? So just like there's guys out there that have heel hooks that are blue belts that are better than black belts, right? And so this kid, his thing was arm bars. They were so quick and so sudden. He caught me in the arm bar. Caught almost everybody. Drysdale said, look, that guy's got the best arm bar in here. And, he was a cranker. So when he put all his hips into it, so you knew if he does catch you there, you got to be ready to tap quick, right? But you didn't want to get in that arm bar, bro. You were not going to be like, let me just go.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, if it's there, yeah, those kind, yeah.
You're like, dude, don't play around with this guy because sometimes you can't tap quick enough. Some stuff. There's no nice way to do arm bars at an elite level. The best arm bars are sudden arm bars. They're not like slow, see it coming arm bars. The best arm bars out there are they're not even taps. They're ahs. They're you yell at the top of your lungs. That's the best arm bar guys. So you're training one of those guys. You don't want to play loose and just I don't know. I don't want to because I'm with him. I don't want my arm popped.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But we had a good discussion here. I got a lot done. What's the week look like for you guys?
Where can we watch this?
I'm going to check
it to our family and friends.
I'm going to check and see if we can get the top 10 productions up and running. Let me see where it's at. Let me message that to you guys.
Mean Green Productions.
Oh no. No. Yeah. Well, we'll keep working on refining our technique here. One thing I got to do is get a cable into this machine. I'm using my MacBook Air and probably going to have to switch over to a Windows-based PC because this
is this going to be on on like YouTube eventually, or what?
Yes.
Where are you gonna
Well, no, it should be live streaming now. It should be going out now.
put it? But where do you get it? Where do we get a link to it?
That's what I'm looking at. It should be going out to top 10 productions, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, but where do we get it in order to disseminate it?
You need a link. You need a link there to the
Do
channel.
we have one?
Should. Let me see. This is all new to me. I'm gonna stop this here, and then I'm gonna take it off of live.